Hi, everybody. I'm here with Michael Glenn, and we're talking about talent acquisition. This is the first of two interviews I'm going to do with Michael. We're going to come on to recruiter enablement later, but in this first one, we're going to talk about some more general talent acquisition subjects, things that I think you're going to be very interested in. Michael, give us a quick introduction to you, first of all.
Yeah, hey, I'm Michael Glenn. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, and I do employer brand recruitment marketing. I also have a virtual conference workshops through a company called Employer Branding EXP. And I've been a recruiter for many years. I was a recruiter for 20 plus years, so been in the trenches.
Yeah, great. Okay, let's start with something that I don't think has genuinely ever been fixed. Maybe you can convince me there's an answer to this, but how can TA managers genuinely show their ROI with data? Let's be honest, if you ask a TA leader, they're going to brag about like their Excel spreadsheets and their dashboards and their mosaics and things like that. But how can TA teams really show ROI to the business?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And I think right now, ROI is where we're at, right? Because we're not really showing it through the right types of data in the past. I've, been a recruiter and a sourcer in the past. We've always kind of been using the metrics to keep recruiting teams productive, right? Just to see how many interviews it takes to get to, an offer or a hire. Nowadays, I think the C-level executives want to be more efficient. They just want to get to the brass tacks. They want to see exactly what the number of jobs that we have, the number of offers that we have, and the number of hires that we've got. So keeping it simple, yet also providing a lot of data around how we're getting to those candidates quickly and moving them through the process. So for me, we've used data to really, in the past, like I said, make us more productive. And now we're having to use that data to really future-proof talent acquisition to show that we can become more of a talent advisor, and that we're able to use this data to make ourselves more efficient, and so they can get a broad overview of how things are being ran in recruiting. Not just using cool little dashboards and Excel spreadsheets, but really kind of giving that overview, because that's what they really want to talk about. The C-suite really wants to know more about that.
I'd go even further and say it's about survival, to be perfectly honest. I don't think there's any white collar team in a large company today which isn't being stress tested around its value to the business. And I think TA has to be able to really formally link what it does to either top or bottom line growth, or both, or both. I wonder what you think about that.
Yeah, and it's been kind of a rough last 3 years, right? It's just, there's been so many changes within TA. We saw, I mean, this is kind of personally what I've experienced and what I've seen. Hopefully I'm answering this question the right way, but I want to get to a real quick point here. We're seeing where a lot of let's just use a good word for this, like old school recruiters being pushed out.
Yeah.
And then they've used tools and technology in a different way, and to show the ROI. And now we're seeing a little bit more of a new path being created where you're having to have less managers and less layers between the production recruiters and the TA leader. So showing ROI and with less without spending more money. I think that's kind of where we're at. And we've always, corporate America, I'm just saying this specifically for us over here, they are bottom line driven. Like, they see talent acquisition as an expense, as a cost center. So we're having to do a little bit of a shift here, try to, project, showcase what we're really about, which is we're really about driving results and outcome. So we have to be a little bit smarter in that. We have to show more ROI. And I think the newer leadership really is getting in tune with that now.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like taking that a little bit further and talking about the future of recruiting. So I think we're on this winding road, so many promising options, which all kind of lead to AI. It's going to make us so efficient. There's going to be less recruiters. What do you think about like AI in the future of TA?
Yeah, I have to go back from my time as a recruiter. We didn't have a lot of technology. We actually just used the telephone and had some email or maybe the fax machine. And now over the years, we've seen a lot come and go. And now we're at a point where we made, and I say this because Rob McIntosh, you probably know him. He's been a
Mhm.
TA leader. He's always said this. He said, we've made it more complex than it should be.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is going to be contradictory to kind of what I'm saying, but I feel like AI is going to make it less complex, believe it or not. That's where we're hoping. And so we're, instead of like always just building everything around one type of tool technology, like the ATS, now we're kind of be building around multiple types of technologies to handle certain tasks. And so as us, we're having to kind of choose what path we want to go to. In again, I'll go back to corporate America. You might wind up being more of an advisor rather than sort of a pair of hands in filling roles. So there's multiple paths I think that we're going to have to choose for talent acquisition, and we have to be smart about it. We can't just, you know, um, continue to do things and think that they're going to stay the same. We have to invest in certain types of automation and it's right for your organization. And I think that's where we're going to start seeing where talent acquisition gets aligned properly across AI and that automation piece.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk briefly about an area that you know quite a lot about, which is in the employer branding space. And I want to talk about authenticity. It's a phrase that's used a lot within the EB kind of community. And a couple of the things that have been sort of new over the last couple of years is allowing employees to do TikTok reels and come to work videos and things like that. And you know, for those candidates who are really hard to reach, hard to get to because they love their job, they like where they work, you know, that type of thing I think is really powerful in terms of kind of getting to them and turning their heads. So interested to know what you think about this subject, like influencers in employer branding.
Yeah, I think there's this is really exciting time for us. We're getting to a point here, especially over the U.S. Let me backpedal for a second. I think we create a lot of this stuff over here in the US. I'm just going to say that we do. We create these like, things. And then I feel like over in the UK, you guys perfect it. So with your platforms, your tools, your technology, you guys really have, a lot of challenges around this. So you will take something that we're creating over here, like these influencers or these TikToks or these reels, and really doing something. And I'm starting to see that now. But here in the US, I think what we really need to embrace, and it's tough because marketing has very strict guidelines about what you can and can't say because it can hurt the brand itself, right? So let's say you're over here in the US and you have a lot of high volume hiring. You want to use a lot of these influencers because it gives those entry level people a really good snapshot of what it's like to work there. And I think that's going to have a domino effect for some of these more skilled roles, more of these positions where, they're not entry level, but they could be like manager roles too, right? So companies are, the bigger the company, the harder it is to sort of embrace these TikToks and these reels because it goes against their marketing guidelines. But I think we're going to see a lot more companies embracing this because it really gives an authentic view of what the company culture is like. And we like those videos. They're much more entertaining than somebody just sitting there on a career site telling you why, they like their job.
Yeah.
And I go back to saying this because a lot of this may start over here, and I really feel like what I'm hearing and seeing from over in the UK, like you all are using a lot of these influencers and their TikToks and the reels much more so than we are here in like corporate America and Fortune 100 companies. You guys seem like to be using it a lot more. So
Yep.
be interested to see how things shape up. And I think we're going to be embracing this a lot more moving forward.
It's an interesting point about like you think that we're doing it more in the UK and whatever. I feel like the UK and the USA are pretty index linked on like talent because there's a lot of companies with operations on both sides of the pond, and so things sometimes happen a little bit quicker here, a little bit quicker in America, but um, I think certainly both countries are ahead of most of the world on this kind of stuff. Last
Yeah.
question, just a open one. quick fire kind of response. What's the biggest challenge for talent acquisition moving forward?
Wow. Yeah. I think a lot of the combinations that, we were just talking about right there. But I think moving forward, it really is going to be around technology and the tech stack that you have, because we've seen what happens when you invest in a tech stack and that's the only thing that you have, and you center everything on that, and it doesn't make you that much more efficient. It just adds more fields that you got to do, or more tasks that you got to do, or reports that don't really mean much of anything, and pulling out of there and pulling reports out of the out of one system. So I feel like we really need to invest. Our biggest challenge for TA really is to understand exactly the best of breed applications out there that for automation and for AI or sourcing and employer branding. So that's where I think we're headed over the next 5 to 10 years, investing in that type of the tech stack. Yeah.
Couldn't agree more. The difference between company A and company B, company A has got a crappy applicant tracking system and some LinkedIn accounts. Company B has, automated a whole load of stuff. The experience for the hiring managers and the candidates and the recruiters can be completely different in company A and company B. So Michael, thank you very much for your time today. Been great to catch up with you. Look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks' time when we're going to talk about employer branding and recruiter enablement more specifically. So how do we enable recruiters with all of the right messaging and assets and make sure that they're on brand, they're not breaking the rules, but they're representing the company in a really effective way? So Michael, thanks again for your time. See you soon.
All right. Thank you.